Give us an update generally, sort of how the recovery has been going, sort of the teams that you've been deploying so far over Saturday and Sunday.
Sure. Well, it's been just over 48 hours since Hurricane Florence made landfall here, and we've had about 1.3 million customers who've lost power. That's out of 4 million homes and businesses that we serve here in North and South Carolina. And so over 25% of our customers have lost power. The good news, though, is that we have restored power already to over 870,000 customers. So I'm very pleased with the progress that we've made so far, but there's a lot of damage in the hardest hit areas. And so it's really going to take a while for the floodwaters to recede so that we can get in and conduct our damage assessment and then get on the restoration efforts so we can complete that. In the meantime, the storm continues to roll through the Carolinas. It is still in our service territory, and so we're having more outages. We're prepared for those as the storm rolls across our system, but we'll continue to work this storm very, very actively.
Talk to us about the damages relative to previous storms that you've been a part of here and sort of the challenges that you're facing. This has been more concerned about flooding, less about wind.
Right.
How does that affect you in terms of sort of the cost and your ability to respond?
Right. Well, this has been really a historic storm in many, many respects. Just 2 years ago, we had Hurricane Matthew, and that was the worst flooding that we had had in over 100 years. And now, just 2 years later, we're having even worse flooding. Some areas of the state have received over 30 inches of rain, and the footage that we're all seeing is really, really heartbreaking, frankly. We have mobilized a number of techniques to be able to get into the hardest hit areas. We're using predictive data analytics in order to determine when the floodwaters will recede so that we can get into to those areas and really start to restore power as quickly as it's safe to do so.
There's a certain residential aspect, but there's also a business aspect. Come Monday morning, Tuesday morning, when businesses want to start to be able to get back to work, do you have any estimates now about the power you've been able to restore to some of the major or local businesses to make sure that they can get back to business?
Right, absolutely. We prioritize our critical customers, things like hospitals, emergency personnel, and schools are part of that, and then also businesses in this important part of that segment. So we work very closely with our large account management team to ensure that we're providing accurate updates to all of our business customers so that they can plan accordingly. As this storm rolls through our system, we're providing more targeted estimated times of restoration by zone. We've got 12 different operating zones here in the Carolinas, and we're providing those updated estimated times of restoration, or ETRs, as the storm continues to move through.
I want to talk about a containment area near Wilmington that failed. There was about 2,000 cubic yards of toxic materials that have been spilled. What are your estimate of damages there and any environmental concerns, and how soon are you able to go in there and sort of assist in the recovery around that?
Well, let me just clarify that the release of the 2,000 cubic yards was of some coal ash. It was part of our coal ash basin at our Sutton plant near Wilmington. It's non-hazardous, so we believe that most of the material was contained on site, and we certainly have confidence that there's no impact to the environment or public health and safety at this time. Our team is actively managing that. Once the floodwaters recede, we'll be able to get in and perform some minor repairs there. But right now, we're very confident in the safety of the public and the environment. Our bigger concern, though, is really the safety of our crews as they are working in these very, very challenging conditions. We've already had experiences where some members of the public have driven around barricades into our work zones. And we would really encourage everyone to obey the directions of emergency personnel as well as power restoration crews as we're working to bring the state back from this devastating storm.
You mentioned this is the second hurricane now, a major one in 2 years. What are you doing, if anything, to prevent that spillage from happening again? Are there any preventative measures that you can take with some of those plants to make sure that it doesn't happen and that they can't weather a big storm like this?
Absolutely. We've taken a lot of steps since Hurricane Matthew as we continue to work towards safely closing all of our ash basins in North Carolina. And we have been in the process of dewatering or reducing the water levels of a lot of those coal ash basins, and that has allowed for greater capacity of water to come in to the basins during a flooding event like we've had. And so we'll continue to take steps to do that as we move forward. but I'm very confident in the approach that we're taking to safely manage our coal ash here at Duke Energy.
And can you make any of those tests public as well for the people maybe who want to know the outcome of those results, whether before or after a storm? Is that a possibility?
Sure, there's plenty of public information about our coal ash sites. We have a dedicated coal ash management page on our Duke Energy website, and there's also lots of public information through the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. We work very closely with our environmental regulator to be transparent in the work that we're doing and to ensure that the public has all the information that they need to have the same confidence level that we do in the way that we're managing our ash basins.
Finally, just to wrap it up here, are there any sort of cost updates that you can give us? I know it's early and digging through the financials takes some time. Any sort of estimates you can give us on how costly this would be relative and sort of where you get the cash to fund the recovery efforts?
Sure. Well, we're focused primarily on our restoration currently. We're still having outages as the storm rolls through our system, so it's premature for us to really have any damage estimates. But I would say that this is, we've had extensive structural damage to parts of our distribution system. We've also had some damage to parts of our transmission system. Because of the weather challenges, we haven't been able to complete our damage assessment yet, but we're in the process of doing that. We're using helicopters to do aerial reconnaissance of the damage, and then when it's safe for us to use drones, we'll also be using those drones to be able to help us with our damage assessment.
How has the technology changed with the use of those drones now? Because that's a relatively new issue, really, that you're being able to use to probably save some crew, be able to use drones instead.
Right. Well, it's very helpful to have eyes in the sky that can allow us to assess the extent of condition of damage on our system. And it's something that we have been able to deploy on a broader scale since Hurricane Matthew just 2 years ago. That helps us get better damage assessments in real time. And allows us then to deploy our resources to the hardest hit areas so that we can get more customers restored more quickly. It really helps us prioritize the work that we're doing.